Hello there. How are you today? Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Maria Tomás-Keegan, and I want to welcome you to the show where we share some wisdom and wit and wonderful experts to help women navigate career and life challenges and changes. And most importantly, for you to know that you are not alone if you're navigating those yourself. Each week through our conversations, we share resources to encourage women to be more confident, resilient, and brave in their choices. So we stream live weekly every Thursday at 10 a.m. Pacific time on the E360 TV network, which you can find on your favorite streaming platforms like Roku and Apple TV and Amazon Fire. And we go live simultaneously on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook, where you can interact with us. And if you prefer to listen to your podcasts while you're on the go, we're also on all the podcast channels. So if something inspires you today and you want more, please subscribe to your favorite channel. Leave us a comment or share a favorite episode so that we can create more ripples in the world for women. So, have you ever worked at a dream job only to discover that it wasn't so dreamy after all? You put in all the time and the effort into getting there, and the disillusionment was soul crushing. You're not alone. My guest today is Lauren Kester, who landed her dream job working behind the scenes of the iconic TV shows 30 Rock and Saturday Night Live, only to learn it was the worst job she had ever had. It's not what she expected. She realized she was living to work. That resonated highly when she told me that. And didn't feed her soul. So we're going to talk today about her journey because I know many women work hard to get where they are and where they thought they should be, only to find it unfulfilling. Lauren will share how she learned to redefine success and reshape her vision of a dream job. I invited her to join us today because her story of self-discovery and empowerment will illuminate the possibilities for you if you want to realign your career and your professional life with what matters most to you. So welcome, Lauren. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
It is my pleasure, my honor to have you. And I want to jump right into this because so many of the women I talk to are struggling with this concept of a dream job.
Mm-hmm.
So can you share maybe your dream job vision and a bit about your experience working your way up to it and then what it was like when you got there?
Sure. Yeah. Uh, from a very young age, I was always very excited about Saturday Night Live. I remember staying up late to watch it, kind of breaking the rules of my household to sneak downstairs for 11:30 on Saturdays to watch the show, and just always dreaming that I could get there, never really knowing how. I don't really come from a family that works in entertainment. I didn't know anybody who worked in TV. I'm just a small town girl from Ohio. But I always just had that desire to work in TV. I didn't know exactly what it would look like or feel like, but I just like, I wanted to be close to this thing that I loved so much. And after I finished college, I moved to New York without a job. I was one of those people who just came to New York with a suitcase and a prayer, and just started networking right away. I got in there, messaged everyone that I knew. Do you know anyone who works in TV? And I probably met with 30 different folks who worked in different areas of TV. And I was just learning and so hungry. And at that time, I was like 22 or 23 years old. And eventually found someone who worked at a show that actually gave me my first job in TV on 30 Rock. And I was working in the office, and 30 Rock actually was one of my best shows. Tina Fey made a really amazing environment. It was one of my best jobs. And that show actually ended. And out of nowhere, an opportunity opened up at SNL. Doing the same background work, I worked in the office, and I applied and interviewed and I got it. And I remember standing outside of 30 Rockefeller Plaza on the day of my interview and just saying a prayer and listening to hype up music, like, oh, this is the dream. Going up to the offices, seeing like Lauren Michaels' desk, seeing the writer's room was super surreal. And then landing the job was just one of the best days of my life. And it kind of went downhill pretty quickly. Unfortunately, I had such high hopes. It was my dream for, I think I got the job when I was 27 or so. At that point, I've been dreaming about it since I was maybe 10. And it's not an easy job to get. There's not often very many open at SNL. So the stars really did align for me to get that job. And then over time, it just things got really, really dark, really, really hard. The environment of the show was really negative, especially in my department. It was people who worked there at the time I was there weren't super happy, and there's lots of books and podcasts, I'm sure, about people who were higher up than me and their experiences at the show. And it can be a really tough, tough, tough environment. And I worked there for 2 years. I ended up leaving of my own accord because as time went on, I fell into a depression. And I'd never really been depressed at all. I was working 6 days a week. I was um, just working with people who I admired, but they were not happy. And I'm like very spongy empath, and it just took on a lot of stress. And the thing that I thought was gonna really make me happy really made me very sad. So it was a really interesting
Wow.
experience. Taught me a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I can hear how it just kind of unraveled for you very quickly. So
Hmm.
what were some of the signs that you started to notice that that supposed dream job, the one, my heavens, from the time you were 7 till you're that's a long time to have a dream, to have it fall apart on you. But what were some of the signs that you started to notice that this dream job wasn't so much of a dream?
I'm very now in tune with my body and hearing from my body, feel like my anxiety and things like that. At that time, I really wasn't. But I started to experience physical symptoms in my body. That was the biggest thing. Anxiety in the chest, anxiety in general, overthinking, just a lot of stress. My body was really tense all the time. Like, just a lot of the women I work with, because I work with overachieving women, we many of us have just a tension in our bodies all the time, and I was just always just kind of on edge. One wrong move, and I just had to jump. It felt like I experienced some weird symptoms of anxiety. Like, I remember that I had severe dry mouth, which I did not even know that was an anxiety symptom. But I could not drink enough water to get my thirst quenched. Like, that was a weird anxiety symptom. I went to a doctor, got an EKG because my heart was palpitating. That's the word, too fast. I thought something was wrong with my heart. I got a chest X-ray because I was just having stress that really caused some major physical symptoms, and those ramped up and they got worse and worse, and it got to a point where I couldn't stay. For
Mm.
my body, I couldn't stay. And it was very weird because everyone I knew was like, "Oh my gosh, this is the coolest job ever. Wow, you're so lucky." And I felt lucky, but I also felt this incredible pain. Just, like
Wow.
physically, it was not easy.
Yeah. And anxiety is it's a it's an insidious thing to deal with, and it shows up in so many different ways. I remember when you talked about the heart palpitations. I remember having those a couple of times in my life. And I'm not an anxious person either. I
Mhm.
usually manage stress pretty well, but there were times in my life going through, difficult situations, and I thought I had a heart problem as well. And it
Mm.
just and my heart rate was not elevated, but it felt like it was beating out of my
Yeah,
chest.
I
Yeah.
felt similarly.
Yeah, yeah. So I feel you. I feel you with that symptom. And it's let's talk about how you coped with the realizing that that thing you dreamed of for so long wasn't meeting your expectations. What
Yeah.
strategies did you use to cope with that?
Man, I well, after I went to the doctor and I learned that I wasn't dying and I just had really bad anxiety, I started to go to therapy, and that was very helpful. And uh, now, I've been able to really manage my anxiety. And I was in therapy for a really long time, and I'm very much a proponent of therapy, but the needle didn't really move for me in terms of changing my anxiety until I started to work with a coach, a mindset coach, to help me really manage my mind and think in a different way. That was really beneficial, probably the most beneficial thing I've ever done in my life. But secondary to that was it was a lot of grief at first because I built this
Mm,
thing up over decades. And not only did I have my own hopes and dreams about what this would be, but I also had the dreams of my friends and family who were rooting for me and jealous of me. And people couldn't believe that I would choose to leave something like this. And so going through the emotions of feeling like I'd let people down was also a part
mm,
of it. And at that time, I really didn't have a lot of the skills that I now have. And so the first step was getting my anxiety under control and learning to manage my mind. And then grieving was pretty significant step. I think that had I not grieved it, it'd still be something that I was hanging on to. Um, and then really thinking about what did I want from my life, because I really thought like once I got to SNL, like that was it. That was going to be the top of the mountain. And once I got to the top of the mountain and it wasn't what I wanted, I really had to start asking myself some serious, deep questions about what I wanted my life to look like, what I wanted it to feel like, because I thought that I was going to get a certain amount of joy, fulfillment, peace, calm from this job. And that didn't happen. So I really had to start asking myself some questions about what the future would be that was going to look very differently.
yeah, I can imagine that. I'm so glad you brought up the the grief, because so many of us don't recognize when we are disappointed about how things pan out for us,
Hmm.
that there is a grieving process that needs to happen
Yeah.
so that we can get through the acceptance of the situation and then be able to move beyond it and
Hmm.
start thinking more clearly about, okay, so, and for you, you were 27 when that happened, right? You were still very young.
Yes.
To think that you had, but this was how your mind was working, right? To think that you had reached the pinnacle and that you were going to just stay there,
I
right?
know.
For the rest of your career is probably an unreasonable thing to think, but you
When we're
had
in our
so
20s.
much invested in that dream.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and so many of us do, right? We start dreaming when we're young about what we want to be when we grow up, right? And we follow a path, and then we get people who are pushing us on that path because they think
Mhm.
we want it so much. And then at some point we may figure out that it's not really our dream anymore.
Yep.
It's somebody else's.
Oh, yeah.
And then we're living by somebody else's expectations. And then when that doesn't pan out, we feel like we're letting people down, like you said, right?
Mhm.
And like people are thinking they're jealous of you. I love that you brought these things up because these are really deep emotions that we have
Yeah.
to deal with when things don't work out the way we hoped they would or expected them to.
Expectations of others is such a heavy burden to bear
It is.
sometimes, and learning to release that it takes time.
It takes time.
A lot of
It takes a lot of self-awareness as well,
time.
right? So, so tell us about that turning point when you decided to pursue a different path.
Yeah, I think at this point I was still in my 20s, and now I'm almost 40, so I feel like I was quite a baby
Oh,
then.
you're such an old lady.
I still know I'm still young. I'm young, but
You're still young.
man, when you're in the moment in your 20s, it feels like everything is so important. And I know I felt that way because I feel things very strongly. I'm very empathic. I'm very gooey. I'm a feeler. Um, so I reached the end of my second season and I just knew I couldn't continue down the path. I saw the path ahead of me, and I was like, I just can't put my body through another season. I can't put my soul through another season. I need to make a change. And I wasn't sure what that would be. And I I was, talking to people who did other jobs within film and TV. I thought I'd been working in TV. I thought, oh, maybe film will be different. And I just started to let myself explore a little bit, but it took some time. What I ended up doing was taking a job on a movie that was in New Orleans to get out of New York, out of the energy of New York, out of 30 Rockefeller Plaza, and just took some time to slow down. And I've been single, so I've been lucky enough to have these spaces and times where I can do these types of things. But slowing down, learning to listen to myself, and also resetting my nervous system, because a lot of us, if we're high achieving women, we get burnt out and we don't realize it because we're always going, going, going. But working in this job really got me to a place where my body needed to kind of reestablish normalcy before I could move forward. So I needed to slow down and rest and kind of come back to myself. And that took, some time, some years, a year at least. And then from that place, I just started to think about how do I want to feel? An exercise I love to do with my clients is thinking back. If you fast forward your life to the end of your life, what do you want to feel proud of? Like, what would you want? If you're reflecting on your life and you're in your rocking chair and you're 90 years old, what are you excited to tell your grandkids about? And I started to ask myself questions like that and kind of let myself play and explore. And for me, it was like, I want to live a life that's I'm really proud of, that I'm excited about, that feels good, that feels safe, that feels sustainable. And I love a good story. So for me, it's like sometimes I want to do things that are adventurous, and I can have a good story from it. But I knew that I wanted to feel a lot different. I wanted to feel calm. I wanted to feel excited, and I wanted to not be in a place where I'm inundated with stress and anxiety in my body. So part of that was, changing my career trajectory, and part of that was learning to manage my anxiety and manage my mind. So it was kind of like a dual pronged approach. Uh, thank God that I did.
Yeah. Yeah, thank God you did. So I love I love the journey you went on, and that you gave yourself time, and that it is more about figuring out what you want. So I ask my clients this all the time, and they
Mhm.
think when they hear that question, it's like, what do you want to do next in your career, right? It's this they jump to that and miss the part about the question you asked yourself. How do you want to feel?
Yes.
How do you want to feel about what you do? And let's start there,
Yeah.
right? Let's start with, what's important to you? What matters to you now? Who are you now that things have changed for you because you're starting from a different point,
Mm-hmm.
right? In your case, you're starting when you recognized that SNL was not really your dream job. You were starting at a different place
Mm-hmm.
than you were 2 years prior when you first started it,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
With all those expectations and all of that, the best day of your life kind of feeling, and then it unraveling from there. So you're at that unraveled place,
Mm-hmm.
pretty raw, and
Very.
now trying to figure out, okay, so what do I want to feel instead of
Mhm.
this?
And I think we get, because I work with women also, and we get, we think we have to have everything figured out. We think we need to have, like, oh, I want a new job. I want a new career. I need to know exactly what that looks like.
Yeah.
And I love to start my clients with thinking about how they want to feel, and then like what things do they do in their life, maybe not even in their job, that light them up. I think
Mhm.
a lot of people, like my clients, will say, I don't know what I want to do. I know I don't want to do this, but I don't want to do this. And I don't know what I want. And I'm like, actually, you do. You know a lot more than you think you know,
Right.
right? Because you know that you want to feel a certain way. There's certain things that you do within your day to day that actually you do like. You know what you don't like. And we can build a job that find a job where you get to do more of what you do like and less of what you don't like.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
and it
Because
doesn't mean,
knowing what you don't want is getting you much closer to what you do want. And that's as important to know what you don't want. It's as important. I love that. Yeah. We
definitely.
we work with our clients in very similar ways. Yeah, because those things become the foundation
Hmm.
to jump from, right? And to figure out, all right, so if I could do more of what I love to do and less of what I don't want to do anymore, how would that make me feel?
Yeah, and giving yourself permission
Yeah.
to explore that is
Yeah.
huge.
So, what advice would you give women who are experiencing a similar disappointment right now?
Yeah, big question. I think that first admitting where you're at and giving yourself permission to feel how you feel is the best first step, because in my experience, I felt a lot of shame and guilt and like, oh, I don't want to even tell people that I'm this unhappy. Because especially if we're at a job with some prestige or something that we've talked about or dreamt about for a long time, we there's stories that we're telling ourselves about what we should and shouldn't do regarding the job. And sometimes it's like, oh, I don't want to even tell my husband or my family that I'm feeling this way. So admitting to yourself that, you know what, it's not working, I think is the first step, and that can take time. um, just really giving yourself the, like I said, permission to own where you're at, which is not where you want to be, but permission to say, okay, this sucks, this is
Mhm.
not for me. And then giving yourself a little bit of breathing room to get back to yourself, I think, is another step that people find it difficult to do. We're busy, we're mothers, we're friends, we're daughters, we're workers, we're wives. Giving yourself some time to just get back to your center, even if it's 5 minutes of quiet time in the morning, to just find that calm in your body again, especially if you've been stressed out with this job. uh, I'm very big on listening to our bodies, and so giving yourself a chance to reset emotionally and physically is another really, I think, often skipped but very uh, important step. And
Yeah.
then thirdly, remembering that you can do, like, there are so many jobs that we don't even realize that are jobs. And in America, we have this sort of path of like, you do this and then you do this and you move up and you're always growing and you have to have this much salary and XYZ. But there's so many ways to make money and there's so many career moves that are possible. And the you can move from one industry to an entirely different industry if you have transferable skills. Like we think that we're stuck, but most of the time when we think we're stuck, it's a story that we're telling ourselves, and we just need a really powerful reframe. Because I've had clients who have gone from one industry to something completely wildly different with a salary increase, with more job satisfaction, but they were stuck telling themselves, "Oh, I can't do that because I don't have the right degree or I don't have this particular piece of experience." But as women, we often undersell how amazing our transferable skills are. And I think there's a statistic that talks about how women won't apply for a job if they don't have
Yeah.
80% of the qualifications or 90%, but a man
Yeah.
will apply if they have like 10%. And it's like giving yourself permission to go for the thing that might be out of left field, but you actually have everything, especially if you're a mother. I'm not yet a mother, but people really undersell how much work that you do as a mother that is important in business. That's just coming through. I don't know why, but somebody needs to hear that today.
Yeah, that's so true. That is so true that we develop skills from every aspect of our lives, right? And they contribute to our who we are as a whole person. And so many of those skills are soft skills, human skills, right?
Mhm.
And many of them are hard skills like that managing time,
Yeah,
organizing.
huge.
Those are skills that many of us acquire in our corporate lives as well as in our personal lives, right?
Mhm.
And we become masters of those. So that makes us an expert. And
Mhm.
you're so right. I think the statistic, at least the latest statistic I've heard about that, the men versus women applying to jobs, is that men will apply with just 30, being able to check off 30% of the
There
boxes.
you go.
And women need to check off 90% of those boxes
Wow.
before they will consider applying for the job. I work with my clients on that all the time. So how
Same.
many how many of those boxes can you check off? Oh, probably only 60 or 70%. And that's plenty. That's
It's
plenty. Go
plenty.
for it. Let's position you, right? Powerfully for that role based on what you do bring, based on your accomplishments and the value you bring and the impact you can have.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's I work with just women, and I one of my kind of mission in life is to have women know how worthy they are of really creating lives that they want. And so like stepping into your worth and applying for that thing you really want, it can be a big stretch, but oh man, does it feel so good when you do it.
It does, and even though, the answer may not always be yes, and learning how to take rejection, how to be resilient, how to stand in your power, knowing this is who I am, and I am really good at this.
Yeah.
Now I just need to connect the dots in the right way so
Yeah.
that other people can see that too.
Yeah.
And that's an exercise in practice, right? We
Mhm.
just have to keep honing our skill of positioning ourselves, connecting the
Mhm.
dots.
And position like I think positioning yourself is something that we undersell ourselves as women.
Yeah.
And oh boy, the right story can get you in the door so many places that we don't think we are able to enter. And not
Yep.
like, just the way we're framing our experiences can really, like, I never thought I would be talking to you today, but I frame myself as the story I tell myself about myself has changed so much, and it's enabled me to really open myself up to so many more opportunities.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's exactly what it is. Just opening ourselves up, right? Just exploring the possibilities. So why not?
Why
That's
not?
the question. Why not? Give it a shot. Why not? Right?
Such an
There's
important question.
Yeah, it's a powerful question. You're right. Okay, so how has this experience that you've gone through shaped your definition of career success and fulfillment?
Oh man. Uh, it's definitely changed a lot. I think for me, it's oh. My success is now defined by me and not what other people think of me. I'm a mindset coach and an astrologer, and there are people in my life who think, "What? You can make money doing that?" And it's taken a lot of self acceptance, self love, mindset work to really step in to my purpose. But how I define success is how I feel. You know, I
Mhm.
I think that is unusual, and obviously, I want to make money and feel abundant and prosperous and have amazing relationships. And I no longer organize my life around trying to look a certain way or check off other people's boxes. My boxes are now, how am I spending my time? I'm an entrepreneur, so I have some agency to be able to organize my day. And, I'm in New Orleans right now. I just was able to take off 5 days and go to Mardi Gras. And I want to at the end of my life, I think about this exercise all the time. At the end of my life, what do I want to be proud of? And I want to be proud of the relationships that I built with people I love. I want to be proud of the things that I did, the adventures I've gone on, the trips that I've taken, the people that I've served. I've got a huge heart for service, and I've always really wanted to help people. And so that is what I think about success as, like, am I being of service? Am I being authentic? Am I living a life that I'm proud of? And I have some family who I think about often as kind of like a guiding post of what I do and don't want in my life. And some of my older family members say, at my age, I have a lot of regret. And they're in their 60s and 70s. And I'm 38, so I'm still pretty young, but I really have lived a life that I don't have a lot of regrets. And I'm really proud of that because I think that is pretty unique. And so organizing my life in a way where I'm measuring my success by, if I died today, would I die like with satisfaction, or would I be, would there be a lot left unlived? And for me, hopefully I don't die today, but
Yeah,
I I really think success for me is about being proud of the life I've lived, and
I
and
love that. I
I
love
feel
that.
very fortunate.
Yeah, I don't want you dying on my watch.
Yeah. No, no, no.
Please don't do that.
No.
I love what you said, Lauren, because this is so important, and it is so many of us don't think of it this way.
Mhm.
We've been programmed to think about success being how much money we make, or how many cars we have, or that the American dream, which
Right.
quite honestly should be blown up,
I agree.
because it doesn't serve us
Not at all.
as people. It doesn't serve us to focus on the things that really make us happy,
Mhm.
right? That really allow us to be uh, of service to others, like you said. So when we, I think this is it's a very productive exercise for everyone to go through. Is just think about how do you define success today,
Mhm.
and are you living that definition? Right? What in your life is contrary to that definition, and how do you want to change that
Mhm.
so that you can be more in alignment with how you view success for yourself?
Mhm. And is it my definition of success, or is it society's? Is it my grandparents'?
Exactly. Was it passed down to me? Am I wearing the old beliefs as though they're mine?
Mm.
Though, we have to question that. That's such a good exercise to go through.
It's I
So,
really recommend it.
I'm sorry?
I really recommend it.
Yeah, highly, highly. It's a worthy exercise to go through, because diving deep into who we are now, how we feel, what we value most, what really matters, uh, in terms of our relationships, in terms of the work we do, in terms of our families and our friends, the people we spend our time with, the people we surround ourselves with. Are they all making us happy?
Yeah.
Right? And if they're not, what do we need to do to kind of peel back that onion and get to the core, so that, I don't know why people use the onion. I don't like onions and I don't like their smell. What else can we use? Peel the orange. I
Yeah.
like oranges better than onions. Anyway, you get the point. Getting to the core of who we are now and what we care about most. That is such a, in order for us to define success and be fulfilled by the lives we lead. It's such a worthy thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so can you share some lessons, or maybe some insights you've gained from this experience, your personal experience, or maybe the experience you've witnessed from your clients?
Yeah, I could talk about this forever because, I love helping women to see how much potential there is for dreaming outside of the box. But I think the exercise that we just shared is super valuable. What is success to me? And I think the exercise I already mentioned about, looking back on your life, how do you want to be remembered? What do you want to remember? Is also super valuable. But I think, if you're somebody who's in this place right now where you feel really stuck in this job, and you maybe have a story of, I can't quit right now because I need to make money for my kids, my family, whatever, letting yourself feel into the grief. I think that we get really often get stuck in the I hate this part of the story, where you're miserable, where you're going to work every day and you're unhappy and you're ruminating, and letting yourself move past that into anger, letting yourself go through the stages of grief around your job and process it so that you don't get stuck there. We get stuck when we refuse to process, or we're unable to process where we're at, and letting yourself really feel the feelings, and letting yourself really feel the feelings. If it is rage, if it is sadness, letting them move through your body. I mean, physically, like, if you have anger in your chest, or on how much you hate your job, or your dream has let you down, or anxiety or stress, feel it, and then handle it by moving it out, working with the therapist, working with a coach. But give yourself permission to not like it. And then from that place, give yourself permission to just dream and play. We get to make it up. That's in
I
America.
love that.
We have these stories of like what life should be. And should, I say should with quotes, because a lot of our shoulds are things that are made up of from systems that we never really chose to be a part of, from patriarchal systems, from financial structures. And there are ways to be there are ways to live the way you want to live and be financially abundant, and they look nothing like how we have thought they needed to look. So examining, like, am I doing this because I really want to, or do I think I should? And is there a possible way for me to get what I want doing things differently? And it could be leaving your industry. It could be, you know, any number of things, working with a coach, but giving yourself permission to want more for yourself is also a really big first step.
Oh,
Uh,
that's so powerful. Yeah, giving yourself permission to want more, and
yeah.
allowing yourself to dream about that. So I loved what you were saying about the emotions. I often say that emotions need motion in
Hmm.
order for us for them not to get stuck. And we
Mhm.
so often stuff them down and say, I don't have time for this. I'm too busy. People are depending on me. I can't do this now. I got to work, whatever the
Right.
reason. And we just keep stuffing it down. So there are appropriate times for emotions for us to allow emotions to have motion so
Mhm.
that we can process them as you were talking about and allow them to come up and out so that they no longer keep us stuck. So
Yes.
when that happens, we're not in the right place it's not appropriate for the emotion to come up and out. So just make a deal with yourself and say, okay, this is not the right time for this. I hear you. I feel you. And I'm making a date with you. When
I
I get
give
home tonight,
Yeah. I give my clients often an assignment called rage writing, which is setting a timer for 20 minutes. And for 20 minutes, they just write down everything that's stressing them out, making them angry. And then when the timer's up, you're done. But just giving yourself like a spaced off
right,
block of time,
right.
you don't have to carry it the rest of your day.
Just get it out. And then, another great thing to do with that piece of paper where you've written down all the things you're enraged about is to burn it,
Yeah.
right?
You don't need
Or
to ever read
shred
that
it, or
again.
in some way just get rid of it. And there's a psychological effect with that.
Of
Um, please burn it in a very safe place. I like to do it in
course.
my sink where the water is handy. But there's a psychological effect that happens when you rid yourself, right? That's what you're doing. You've
Mhm.
gotten it out, all out. You've gotten it out of your head, off your heart. You've unburdened your shoulders, however you perceive it, and you put it on paper. And now you've torn that paper out of the notebook that it was in, and you've crumpled it up and you've burned it, and you're watching it burn. You're going, okay,
Mhm.
that smoke is my rage, and it's just
Mhm.
going away now. And allow yourself to feel unburdened as a
Yeah,
result. Yeah,
definitely.
it's a cathartic exercise. I love that you guys do that too.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. There's so much good stuff here, Lauren. Um, and I need to wrap this up here, but you have shared some great insights and some ideas that I think will help people who are challenged today by the work they're doing at that they thought they would love. I mean, I loved my corporate career for a very, very long time until I didn't.
Mm.
And then for me, I was planning my exit strategy when I was surprised by the company I worked for almost 20 years, and then they laid off my entire global team out of the clear blue. So, that I wasn't feeling it was my dream job at that time. I was ready, as I said, planning my own exit strategy,
Mm.
but they took they took they took it right out of my hands.
Yeah.
And that was disappointing to me. That that brought a lot of panic for me.
Mhm.
So that's another emotion, and a lot of people feel like they can't leave this job. They are the sole breadwinner or the main breadwinner for their family. Their children depend on it. Whatever the reason, there's still a way for you to think about it differently.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So
Change
I
your
think
mind to change your life.
Yeah. So you've just brought up some really great points. All right, I'm going to ask you to wrap it up in a bow for us right now. I know that we've covered a lot of territory today, but if you were to share with our audience maybe the three top tips or key takeaways for them for today, what would those be, Lauren?
3 tips. 1, give yourself permission to want more for yourself, even if you don't see the path forward yet. Give yourself permission to desire more. It doesn't have to look a certain way. It doesn't have to be a path that is linear, but give yourself permission to want more for yourself. If you're in a place where you feel really stuck. with your career, or you had a dream job that is no longer a dream. Secondly, define what success looks like for you. At the end of your life, what are you going to be proud of? At the end of your life, what do you want to have done, felt, experienced? And does the life you're living now really line up with that? And then, thirdly, giving yourself time to grieve where you're at so that you can move on without carrying the past with you. Um, when we have a dream for many years and we get there and it's not what we want, it can bring up a lot of emotions, and those emotions need to be filtered out so that you can move on in a place that feels really strong, and you're able to move forward without bringing the past with you.
Oh, those are so good. So, so good. So, so good. All right. All right. I'm going to repeat them because they're so important. Give yourself permission to want more for yourself. I love that. That just opens things up for me. That just like opens my heart up. Want
That's so
more for
powerful.
yourself. You deserve it,
You deserve it.
right? You deserve it. The second one she said was decide what success looks like for you.
Hmm.
It may not be somebody else's picture or the one you've carried with you up until now. You have the right to change it.
Hmm.
It's your life, it's your career. You get to choose, right? That's one of the things that I think a lot of women don't realize is that they have the right to choose something different than
Hmm.
what they have.
Definitely.
Yeah. Even if they have all kinds of responsibilities, they still have the right to choose something different.
Hmm.
And then give yourself time to grieve when things didn't work out the way you had planned. Really good points. Lauren, thank you so much for being here today and sharing your story, being so vulnerable and transparent with us. When I met Lauren a while back, she was living a dream. She was in an apartment with a gorgeous view of the Eiffel Tower. And I was jealous. I must admit, I was jealous. Um, and she's now, she said she's in Louisiana, you said, right?
I'm moving around, but my goal is to get back to Paris.
And to get back to Paris is her dream. So she's working on it.
Yep.
That's, this is a woman walking her talk.
That's
And
important to me. Thank you. I'm glad you see me like that, 'cause that's
yeah,
really
well, that's why I wanted to have you on the show because we now know because we have met you, we know it's possible.
important.
We just have to think about things differently.
Hmm.
Yeah, I love that. Lauren, thank you again.
Thank
I
you.
really appreciate your being here. What is the one best way for people to connect with you? I know they're going to want to.
My website is www.laurenkester.com, LaurenKester.com. And I have astrology sessions, which we have not talked about today. And I do one on one coaching and one off coaching sessions as well.
That's fabulous. Thank you again for doing what you do, being who you are, being the wonderful example that you are for women who want more.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And for those of you who are watching and listening, I want to thank you for being a part of this community. We can't do this without you. So if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a comment, or click a star and let us know. Creating and sharing resources for women is one of my favorite things to do. And another favorite thing is being a life and career coach for women navigating challenging times and helping them get unstuck, explore new possibilities, and find harmony in their career and lives. So, if something in this episode resonates with you and you'd like a fresh perspective about what's going on for you, reach out and let's talk. The links to connect with Lauren and me are in the show notes below. And then let's meet again here next Thursday at 10 a.m. Pacific time, as always, for another inspiring conversation. Because you know what? I believe it's our time to thrive. So let's thrive together. Till next time, I'm Maria Tomás-Keegan, helping you turn transition into triumph.